Hi there, boys and girls. Mickey D here. You are now watching CMS TV. Stay tuned, and you're going to see more of me, maybe, or hear more of me.
All right! Listen up! Hold on to your seats. Grab your girls, grab your beer.
Hey everybody, this is Charlie from Anthrax, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle.
This is Mark Metcalf, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio.
You are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio. Yes, Kato Kalin listens to this all the time. Welcome to today's Boondoggle. Now here's your host.
I am Monty Heath, so one Heath, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle.
Hey, what's up? It's John from Skillet, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle on Domain Cleveland Radio.
Fasten your seatbelts.
Sound the alarm. Incarceration Music and Tattoo Festival is back with Shinedown, Godsmack, Breaking Benjamin, Hailstorm, The Offspring, Chevelle, Bad Omens, Chimera, and so many more. Report to Historic Ohio State Reformatory this July 19th through 21st. 3 days of non-stop rock, tattoos, Blood Prison, Haunted House, and more. Passes on sale now at incarceration.com.
What's going on, everybody? It's Bill Bailey with today's Boondoggle. And real quick housekeeping note, if you are watching us on YouTube or BitChute or Rumble or Odyssey, please hit that follow and subscribe button. And if you're listening to us on Apple, Google, Spotify, whatever podcast platform you utilize, please hit that follow and subscribe button so we can continue to bring you conversations like the one I'm bringing you today. I am catching up with Mr. Kevin Palmer of the band Trust Company. What's going on, Kevin? How you doing?
I'm doing very well, man. Thank you. Thank you for having me. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good, man. Yeah. It's keeping busy and trying to get these interviews in, man, to promote the big festival coming up here next week, Incarceration Festival. But usually when I have people on for the first time, I like to get a quick background. So do you remember originally what you wanted to be when you grew up?
From the time I was about 13, from the time that I was about 13 and I first started thinking about a band, that's really all I ever wanted to be. I will say that when I was like in elementary school, I took karate for a while and I was like, I'm going to be a karate teacher. And then I'm going to be like the karate man. But as soon as I got a guitar in my hands, that all basically, that ended. And so, yeah, from the time I was about 13, all through high school, it's all I ever thought about. It's all I ever wanted. And it was like, it actually kind of made it easy for me because I didn't really have to think too much about like going to college and stuff. I knew that I wanted to get out of high school and just get a job that allowed me to play shows on the weekend. That's all I ever really wanted to do.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then what was it about like your earliest discoveries of music? Like who was it that kind of caught your eye and planted that fire?
Yeah. Well, so there wasn't really any music in my house when I was really young. My mom sang in the choir, so I had a lot of church music in my house, but I didn't have any, I never heard the radio until I was about 8 years old, it was in the 80s, and we got cable TV for the first time, and then I saw MTV, and that kind of changed the game for me. So when I was young, it was, everything MTV was playing back in the 80s. It was like, it was like Van Halen and the Police and Tom Petty and, it was that stuff. But then as I got into high school, I discovered like Guns N' Roses and Skid Row, and that's really what changed it for me. Those are the bands that, really made me want to like be in a band. Skid Row dominated my high school. I wanted to be in Skid Row. I loved it so much.
Hey, like still to this day, and I tell people this story all the time, but when I was in high school back in the day, they had, before Ticketmaster, they had this thing called Ticketron, for concerts and stuff. And one of the first concerts I saw in high school that just changed my life, and it's still like my favorite ones, was Guns N' Roses and Skid Row at the Richfield Coliseum. And it was like, Sebastian Bach was still in Skid Row. It was Guns N' Roses just as Use Your Illusion was getting ready to come out, or Terminator 2, was ready to come out and stuff. And it was just, I was third row center. My sister worked across the hallway, I guess, from where there was a Ticketron, and was friends with the girl and was able to snag me like amazing tickets, third row center, high school kid. It changed my life, man. Been, second tattoo I ever got, Guns N' Roses. So
yeah. Dude, it was a game changer. I actually went to that. They came through our town. They came through the Skid Row Guns N' Roses tour. Came through. They came through Birmingham. I'm a little bit further south in Montgomery, Alabama. But yeah, they played at like a speedway, so it was outside, and I mean it was a sea of people like I had never seen before in my life. And similar to you, like that show, because we didn't get many shows coming through Alabama, especially not in Montgomery. So I mean, it was the most people I've ever seen in my entire life. And I can remember watching like the show and all the bands they'd come out, and it was just, I remember looking up there and being like, how do I get to that side of the stage? It just seemed so far away, But those shows, that show in particular, like really stayed with me. It was amazing.
Yeah, and then and that's what I wanted to ask too. Like, I mean, growing up in Montgomery, Alabama, what was it like when you started playing guitar and you knew you wanted to get to that place? But was there like a local scene or anything, going on growing up?
Yeah, we had. Well, when I was in high school, I had a high school band, and there was a few people that played, but not a whole lot. But when I got in my 20s, we had a very strong local scene. And a matter of fact, our local scene was so strong that like I consider myself as influenced by some of the local bands that we played with that were like a little bit older than us, as much as some of the huge bands that I grew up listening to. Like the scene was strong, and it was right around like our Montgomery Tri-County area, and all the bands got along. It was just really great. We shared a band room with. There was a band called Last Transgression that was just like so much heavier than us, but they were like awesome. We shared a band room with them, so there was a lot of support back in those. This is in the 90s now, when I was like 20, 21, 22. Yeah, the local scene was really good. Now, what we didn't get was a lot of shows. That was the hard thing. We had to drive to Atlanta. Driving to Atlanta was, if you wanted to see a show, you basically had to go to Atlanta. So we didn't get local shows, but Atlanta's, 3 hours away, not that bad. But yeah, we had a pretty good local scene. And I really credit that scene to, helping develop me and our band, and it pushed us and made us better. I consider those literally some of the best times of my entire life. Those days coming up in the local bands. We'd play, we all worked full-time jobs, and we practiced 3 nights a week, and we played shows on the weekends. And we would play shows just about every weekend as far as we could drive and get back to practice. So the job I had at the time, I got off at 11 a.m. on Friday. And the reason I worked that job is just so that I could have that 11 a.m. get off at 11 o'clock on Friday afternoon, so that we had time to get in the van and drive. And we would drive as far as, we would go down to Tampa and Orlando. We even went to Texas a few times, as far as we could go to Montgomery and get back on Sunday to be at work on Monday morning. So it was a lot of hustling, but it was one of the greatest times of my life.
That's awesome. Yeah. So I mean, you did have a pretty positive scene, and like you were saying, which it wasn't just like the big bands that like inspired you and influenced you, but you could kind of sit under the learning tree with the band you shared the practice space with, and kind of get like what to do and what not to do, types of things. But what a hustle, man, to make those drives and stuff. And how did you get yourself like set up with some of those shows back then?
Yeah, it was, and this is what was so great about having the local scene back then, is that you would get a show, or you would meet a band and you would trade shows. So like we didn't have any real places to play in Montgomery, but what we would do is we would rent out this place. There's a place right north of Montgomery. It was this big place called the Doster Center. So we would rent it out and we put on our own shows. So we'd go to Florida, we'd have friends in Florida, bands, and they would bring us down to Florida to play, and then we would bring them back to Montgomery to play this place that we rented out. We called it Local Fest. We had a few different local fests where we would it'd be a lot of local bands, and then we bring in bands from out of town. So it was trading with bands. It was getting to know bands and trading with them and driving it. And we are still friends with some of those guys to this very day. There's a band called Still Naive that actually got signed. I don't think that their record never came out, but yeah, they were down there, and we used to trade shows with them in Orlando, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. The community that we had back then was strong, and it's what made it. We all pushed each other, and it gave us all the drive to get better and keep working at it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm friends with a lot of local, bands that ended up becoming national bands here in the Cleveland area. And I remember, some of the same, hearing a lot of the same stories. That's what it was like before internet and social media and stuff, just like the hustle was for real. And, you scratch my back, I scratch yours in the scene, everybody supporting one another. And that was amazing. So obviously that kind of drive and hustle that you guys showed would pay off and get you, put you on the map and get you noticed out there. Let's talk about when, like the precursor to, Trust Company, 41 Down.
Right.
When did that end up coming together for you?
Yeah. So 41 Down, we formed in 1997. Jason, the drummer, and me have been playing together since 94. So this year is actually 30 years me and Jason have been playing together. But we played in some other bands, but we formed 41 Down, which eventually became Trust Company, in 1997. And Josh came on in 1997 also, bass player. Yeah. And so yeah, we played and played and played. And James, I'll tell you how this worked. So we actually got a showcase for a label, and I'm trying to remember what label it was. I can't remember. I think it was Artemis Records. And they came to Atlanta to watch us play. We were just a three-piece. From 97 to 99, we were just a three-piece band. And we played this showcase in Atlanta at a place called The Masquerade. And the guy that came out and saw us, he said, you guys are great. You're solid and everything's great. He goes, but he said, you need another guitar player. Like, it looks a little bit empty. I'm standing here and Josh is over here. And it's just, he's like, and his opinion was that we need another guitar player. So we went on the hunt for a guitar player, and James joined the fold in 99. And so we became a four-piece then. And let's see, we got signed to a small label out of Washington, D.C. right around the year 2000. We jumped in a van, went on tour, ended up playing showcases for Geffen and stuff. And yeah, it was a wild time. After we got signed to Geffen, we were going to get to keep our name, 41 Down. That's when we got signed. We were 41 Down. As a matter of fact, the first tour we ever went on the side of our bus, it had like a 41 Down sticker. But the label wanted to change it because everyone at the label, we were on Geffen. People in the office on Geffen kept mistaking us for Sum 41. So they would say, like, the new band we just signed, the Sum 41 band, what's the Sum 41 band? And they couldn't remember 41 Down because they were so familiar with Sum 41. So, the label's like, we don't want you guys to get confused with Sum 41 constantly and have this Sum 41 comparison thing. So we went on the hunt for a name, and I don't even remember exactly how Trust Company came, but that's what we landed on. And so we've been that since 2002. But there's like a special place in our hearts of 41 Down. Like, we kind of still feel like that 41 Down band because that's how it all started. I mean, Downfall was written in 1998 as 41 Down. All the 99% of the first record was written as we were 41 Down. So we still have that that little special. We always used to throw out our 41 Down symbol so that we would know. So yeah, but yeah, it changed because of Sum 41 basically.
So as you guys were putting together the Lonely Position of Neutral album, a lot of that was 41 Down material. And then before the release, it was like, okay, we have to have this new name. And because I'm always curious about how names come together, but you don't know how they landed on Trust Company.
It was such a crazy, like everyone was throwing out names, everyone, because there was a push that the record was done. When we did the record, you know, when you're doing a record, you're charting everything out, and on the thing it said 41 Down. I mean, we were literally doing our, you know, we were getting ready to do our first tour, and everyone was still trying to figure out the daggum name, and we were just like, God. So we were getting it from, and we had lists and lists and lists of names, and it's just. It's a nightmare trying to come up with a name. It's like one of my least favorite things to do is try to come up with a name. And so, yeah, it's somehow, I think the word trust was on one list and company was on a different list, and people started putting them together to like try to make some matches and stuff. And somehow it came about. And so, yeah, it feels normal now, but we have even as a business, Trust Company as a business, like our company, our LLC that we operate under is called 41 Down. That's kind of our legal operating name. It's kind of like a nod back to where we came from and stuff. And I really wish we could have kept it just because it felt like home. But we've been Trust Company now for 20 something years. So
yeah. I mean, I didn't know a lot of the backstory, and I've just known it, as Trust Company. But what was the inspiration for 41 Down?
Okay. So the 41 Down came from. It's a funny thing because it's so hard to come up with band names that everybody can agree on. Like you might have one or two people that like, I like this name or I like that name, but trying to get everyone to agree on a band name is so hard, man. And so we had been practicing, we had written some songs, and we had our first show and we didn't have a name yet. And so kind of the same thing, we were up against a wall. All the other local bands are wanting to make flyers, they wanted to put our name on it. So at the time, the job that I worked at, every morning we would do the crossword puzzle. I was a land surveyor. The guys on the side of the road doing this number? Yeah. I did that before. That's what I was doing before we got signed back in the day. So we get in our truck, we go get coffee, and we sit down and do the crossword puzzle. And we were doing the crossword puzzle, and one of the clues or whatever said, it was giving you the clue and the hint, and it said the opposite of 41 Down. So you basically had to figure out what 41 Down was, and then it was going to be the opposite of that or something. And I just saw it written there, 41 Down, and it just kind of rolled off the tongue. And so the idea was, I was like, dude, let's just call ourselves 41 Down. We'll change it later. We got to have something. So we just said, okay, we're 41 Down, and we put it on there, but it came from a crossword puzzle, believe it or not. So
that's awesome. So it's like it's been a history. It's like, I mean, it was kind of self-fulfilling. We'll change it later, and you kind of had to. Even after you liked it.
Yeah, and there's I've heard that story so many times where bands have such a hard time finding a name. You settle on something because you got to have a name to go play these shows, and then you go like, we'll change it later, And then, but once you get used to something, and once you get known at it, it's really hard to change it. So it was really hard for us to like feel like we were called Trust Company, because we just felt like we were 41 Down. That's just who we felt like we were. And so like in the beginning, it's like, here's Trust Company. And it was just like, is that what we're called now? We're called Trust Company? It was so interesting in the beginning. But I mean, of course, it feels normal now. We've had Trust Company for much longer than we ever had 41 Down.
Yeah. And like I was saying, I mean, the Lonely Position of Neutral album was, you had a lot of that written already. And then as it got ready to debut, and then you guys settled on the Trust Company name. I mean, what was that whole thing like, on a major label debut, you're getting the push, and I'm curious. Like I said, I'm a name person. What was who came up with the name of the album, and what was the meaning for that? Yeah.
Okay. So the Lonely Position of Neutral, that was one of our song titles. So when we were 41 Down, before we signed to Geffen, our song titles would just be the craziest things. Like they wouldn't really have anything to do with the song. It was, Running From Me was called Single Smother. It didn't really make any sense. We had these crazy names. And we were kind of like, I don't want to say like, that's what people in our hometown just expected from us, And so the lonely position neutral was actually the name. We have a song on the first record called Drop to Zero. That song, back when we were 41 Down, was called The Lonely Position of Neutral. So naming the album that was just kind of a nod back to 41 Down in one of our songs. And so we could kind of have something that felt like 41 Down. We almost named the first record 41 Down to kind of keep it, which is I think that's what Linkin Park did. They were called Hybrid Theory, and then they had changed it to Linkin Park, and they said they named it Hybrid Theory. But yeah, so we were going to name it 41 Down, but we decided to go with Lonely Position Neutral because it's interesting and strange.
Yeah, I mean, and then definitely catches the eye, but then you get, so you're on Geffen. This gets released, you get a push. You're going from, the job that got you off at 11 a.m. on Friday, so you could drive as far as you can and be back home, Sunday from Montgomery. And then now you gotta you gotta go out and tour support this album. What was that transition like for you? And what was the, you get a hit like Downfall. Yeah. What was that whole experience and feeling like?
It really did feel like that everything that like you dreamed of when you were a kid was starting to come true. Because when we first went out, well, here's the interesting thing. Like, I can remember writing the chorus for Downfall sitting in my bedroom, on like a weekend. And when you're writing those songs, especially if you haven't ever had a record deal, like we didn't have a record deal, we're just a band from Montgomery, Alabama, didn't know a single person in the music industry at all. And you're writing these songs and you don't really ever realize that they could potentially be heard by a lot of people, because we didn't have a record deal. So when we first went out and started touring, we opened up, we were on a tour with Puddle of Mud and 30 Seconds to Mars. That was our first like tour after we got signed. And nobody knew who we were. So the goal every night was just to try to win over the crowd, and then, and it was a lot of fun. It was crazy. It was one of those, I can still remember the first night that we ever played. We were at Stubbs Barbecue in Austin, Texas. Our first show was at South by Southwest. And there was, I don't know, a few thousand people. Puddle of Mud was huge at the time. They had Blurry and everything else. And I remember standing on the side of the stage and seeing all the people, and I was like, are we about to walk out here? Like, is this really about to happen? It was such something that you dream about your entire life. And it was a great experience. It was like dream come true, life-changing experience. But so we kept touring. Really where things changed was when we did Warped Tour. And while we were on Warped Tour, Downfall started to take off at radio. So we went from playing these shows and literally nobody knew who we were at all. And you're just trying to win the crowd over and everyone's just kind of looking at you like, who's these guys? And then all of a sudden we played in a city, and I don't remember what city it was, and people started singing Downfall back. That's something that like you dream of when you're a kid, somebody singing your song back to you. And then as we went through Warped Tour, it all of a sudden became where the cities we went to, Downfall was starting to take it radio. And so we watched it happen live. From like starting Warped Tour, nobody knows who you are. You're just trying to win them over. So by the time we finished Warped Tour, Downfall was doing really well at radio. And people were singing it back to us. And it was just like an amazing feeling. Like I'm feeling truly blessed that everything that you dream about when you're a kid was starting to happen. And it was that Warped Tour was a unique experience because of that. And then so after that, go ahead.
I was going to say, so, it was going back to Guns N' Roses Skid Row at the Speedway. How am I going to get there?
Yeah.
How am I going to get over there? And then now you're like, you're there,
Yeah. Yeah. I had a few of those moments where it was just like, truly can't believe it's happening, because like I said, we're from Alabama. We didn't know anyone. And most of our guys are from a small town called Prattville, Alabama. We've been practicing in a storage room for years is what we've been practicing. And we still practice there now between shows. We got our same storage room, band room back. But it was a dream come true. And I remember playing in Sacramento, California. We were opening up for Korn, and they had, I guess they had general admission tickets, and then they had floor tickets and general admission, and you couldn't get down on the floor without unless you had paid to be on the floor. And so I remember we started playing Downfall, and people started coming down and jumping the railing to get on the floor. And I remember during the breakdown, it was like ding, 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 ding. And I saw people coming down. They looked like ants coming down. They'd like just bypass security and jump down. And I remember thinking to myself, don't ever forget this moment, dude. Like this is, this is special. And then by the time we were done, the whole floor was full. So yeah, it's been quite the ride from a bunch of kids from Alabama.
Yeah, that's incredible. And then you're on Warped Tour. Downfall is like you're giving you experiences like the one you just shared. I believe you guys did Ozzfest as well back in the day.
No, we actually didn't do Ozzfest. We were supposed to do Ozzfest, and we were on the billing and part of the promotion and all that stuff. But the label. I still remember getting the phone call. We were on tour, and we got a phone call from our manager who said that the label does not want you to do Ozzfest. They want you to go in and make your second record. And the second single just didn't do as well. That's the other part of the music business. There's the dream come true. Then there's it's not doing as well as the label, as the label wants. So yeah, we were excited to do Ozzfest, and I hate that we didn't get to do it because we were excited about that for sure. But we came off the road and kind of went into like writing mode and did the second record instead of Ozzfest.
So yeah, so then you guys start writing the second record. I mean, you had Downfall, you had Falling Apart. There was a time too, and hopefully I'm right with my information because I'm a big WWE wrestling fan.
Yeah.
But I believe you guys had a track on their old reality show, Tough Enough.
Yeah, and they
how did that come together for you guys?
Well, that was really and they used it for like they used a couple of our songs for pay-per-views too, Downfall and Falling Apart, and Even Stronger. That was our publishing company EMI like just submitted us for that, and we got it. And then I think it did well enough the first time around to where they used us a couple times more, and that was so crazy because it opened us up to a whole new set of it introduced us to a whole new set of people that had never heard of us before. And to this day, people will write me that discovered us from WWE, and I've even had a couple of not like, but I've had a couple of wrestlers write too. I can't think of their names right now. They weren't like it's not like The Rock wrote me, but like we've had some people write, and so many people discovered us through that. So that was really we didn't see it coming. That, and we also did not realize that we got put on a couple of video games, and still to this day people find us through those video games, and that's a part of it that I never really saw coming, was that we would get used for like WWE and video games. But that's been cool, very cool.
Nice. and yeah, like I said, I'm a huge wrestling fan. Growing up watching that, and it's still my when I need some distraction entertainment. That's my people got football and everything like that.
Yeah.
My soap opera I need to get into every once in a while, but so you guys had all those other opportunities building your fan base, bringing you new eyes and ears, and then what was it that you guys decided to kind of take the time off? And I mean, what was it meant to be time off, or at that point in time you were just kind of like, maybe this is it?
Yeah, I mean, it got to a hard spot. We took a little bit of time off right after the second record, after that the promotion for that was over with, and then we got back together. We never really broke up. We never said, hey, we're breaking up. Like, we just took some time off. And then we went back out and started touring again, and we toured all through 2008, 2009, 2010. The last tour we did, I think, was in 2011. with Drowning Pool and a band called the New Revolution. It's awesome. But at the end of that tour, you know, it was a struggle. It was a struggle, like keeping our heads above water. You know, like it wasn't what it once was. We were, you know, the places weren't, when we would do headlining shows, just places weren't as packed as they were, and we're sitting here hustling. And really it came down to our age, where, you know, we were getting real close to 40 years old. And I remember on that last tour, James knew he was going to be a father for the first time. And we all started to kind of like, okay, you know, what are we doing? Are we going to keep pushing this, or are we going to go back? My wife and I had talked a lot about starting a family. And so we just kind of had this tough conversation and said, maybe it's time to like, you know, put the brakes on and go start a family and just, you know, it wasn't what any of us really wanted, but it just felt like that's what was happening, you know? And so we did it. We're real lucky as far as we all stayed friends. Like they're all the original members. Now Josh wasn't with us for a while, but he's always been one of our great friends. And but right now we're this original lineup, and we've all stayed friends, and we haven't had any major like meltdowns or blowouts or anything like that. And it all kind of came back around by accident. These festivals started up, and I got a couple of emails asking if we'd be interested in playing on a couple of these things, because it had been 20 years. Like the cycle's coming around at 20 years. And so, you know, we just got on a phone call one day and just said, hey, do we want to get back out here and do this again? Because it wasn't, like I said, the reason we weren't doing it wasn't because we weren't all friends and get along. It was just simply because that's how life, you know, that's how life was at the time. We were struggling to make it work. So, I want
to say just, I mean, you know, getting older and starting families and stuff, but how much, you know, the changes in the way the industry was as well was probably, you know, affecting that too, you know, for artists. I mean, before it was the hustle and that's how you got out there and you got paid, you know, and then now that everything's gone kind of digital and streaming, trying to stay, you know,
trying to figure that world out has been new for us, because when we stopped, it's been a whole new world. And, you know, back in the day when we were hustling, you know, like everyone was just single. We're all just single dudes, you know, like when we went out in a van, like we were playing for gas money and like popcorn, like whatever we could get, you know, it was just about playing. But, you know, at this point, we'd all had gotten married. We were talking about, you know, we all had homes and had talked about starting a family. So it was much harder. You know, it was a bigger decision because now we had families involved but I tell you what, like kind of getting back out there and doing it and having fun again has been just amazing for us. Just the first time we walked into the band room again and all just played, it was just like, you don't know how much you miss it until you get in there and do it again. You know, it's been amazing.
Yeah. And so, you know, the opportunities come, like you said, with the 20-year cycle, and thankfully you guys stayed friends, but you know, you're with families and stuff, you're back doing the 9 to 5. Now, does it easier just to get on, you know, I mean, you're not like getting back in the vans like you used to. I would say just, you know, you have an opportunity to play and at these big festivals, and hopefully that helps move merchandise and all that stuff. But I saw you guys had the you know, one of the big festivals you guys had an opportunity to play on and come back out was the Blue Ridge Rock Festival last year, which, you know, is, you know, got a lot of controversy surrounding that thing. How much of a rush was it to get to play a festival again? But at the same time, like, what was that dealing with that situation?
Yeah, like? Interesting, because Blue Ridge was actually the festival that we came back for. That was the first one. Like, you know, we had gotten a call and said, would you guys be willing to do this? You know, Blue Ridge has inquired if you guys, you know, and so yeah, it was crazy. We actually played on the one day that basically didn't have any problems, didn't have anything nothing really went wrong in our day. You know, they'd had a storm the night before. I remember we got there. I'm trying to remember if we played on, I think we played on Friday. But we got there and they had a storm the night before and it had blown catering all the way, like catering was gone, you know. So there was a bit of a scramble when we got there, you know, for catering, and it was hot, and you know, people, it felt like people were kind of scrambling and running around, you know. But our day went, I think I said we had the only day where everybody played. And so, you know, we went on stage and got off stage and at the right time. And I do remember feeling like it was hectic and chaotic, and, you know, but then after we left, the next day is when it just completely went haywire and people were upset. And so we kind of missed the craziness of it all, because our day was the most sane day, the most together day.
Yeah, I mean, so it didn't rob you of having that, you know, that feeling that, playing in front of a big crowd again in a festival. You got to enjoy that moment.
Yeah, it didn't, because that all that stuff didn't happen until after we were done. You know, like when we got there, the only thing that was kind of out of was like, hey, there was a big storm last night. Catering got blown. The catering tents got blown down. So it was like, okay, but other than that, like nothing had really gone too wrong at that point. So when we played, it was still felt very like, you know, everything was going to go smooth and everything was going to be fine. And then all the stuff that when it really got bad is whenever, like after we were done. So it didn't really affect us. It felt really good to get back out there and play again. That was the first one. And I think it was the first time. It was the first time in 17 years that all original members had played together. Because, you know, we had a bass player. We switched bass players here and there throughout. But when Josh was back, that was like our first show as all 4 original members in like 17 years. So it was crazy. It was a lot of fun.
Nice. And then, so you guys get to, you know, manage to get through that whole thing. And then, I mean, what was the feel like with the band and the guys? Like, I mean, y'all all travel out there together, and then what was like the conversation like going back? Like, wow, man, when's the next one? You know?
Yeah, that was basically it. We traveled separately for that. Well, my family, we have an RV, so I took the RV. My family took the RV, and we filled it up with all of our equipment. So that's how we go from there. And then the other guys, everybody took their families to the first one.
Yeah.
So everyone kind of rode separately, because, I mean, our kids had never seen us play before, ever. It was the craziest thing, standing on stage and looking to the side and seeing my son like looking over at me. And he's heard these stories about dad. You know, dad used to play on stages and used to, you know, be in a band, and he's seen the downfall videos and stuff like that, but he'd never actually seen me stand up there and play guitar. And so it was cool. So yeah, all our families came to the first one, Blue Ridge, and our kids got to see us play for the first time. But we drove separately for that one. But now we take 2 vehicles now. We take the RV filled up full of equipment. And then we have and Josh has like a van, pretty long van, and everybody else just piles into that van. So we had 2 vehicles and we just caravan. And then from what I understand, the van with all the other guys is pretty crazy. You know, they're like, dude, you got to ride with us one time, you know, in the van. But yeah, after Blue Ridge, there was a lot of those conversations that were just like, wow, man, wow. I forgot, you know, like I said, you don't realize how much you miss something until you go out there and do it again. It was just like, it was so good for like our souls just to get out there and play together again, you know, after so many years. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. And like, as we were talking a little bit before we went on too, it's like, I remember hearing, you know, your guys' name thrown around last year at Incarceration. And, you know, what's, you know, you haven't, will this be your first time playing like, you know, something under the Danny Wimmer Presents umbrella?
No, we did Welcome to Rockville under Danny Wimmer, and that was awesome. Yeah. That was a lot of fun. They
what was that experience like?
Yeah, it was awesome. It was just really, really good. It was, you know,
No catering getting blown away.
The catering didn't blow away. No, it was.
They usually got really good catering at Danny Wimmer too.
I mean, like the Danny Wimmer stuff is like flawless, dude. It's just like everything is like. Whew. I mean, it's an incredible experience. It really is.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of his festivals. I'm pretty lucky, fortunate fella here in Ohio, getting like two, here within driving distance. At Sonic Temple, and when it used to be Rock on the Range. And, Incarceration. My friend Dan Jansen originally started it, and it's always been a good time. But since the partnership, it's definitely like, taking it up quite a few levels, and it's a good time, man. I don't know if you're a fan of Shawshank Redemption movie and stuff like that, but
yes, I am.
You're going to be playing right there where they filmed a majority of it. You have to definitely check out the prison and everything.
Yeah, I hear that they kind of, and I hear they might give tours. Is that something they do?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. See, I love Shawshank Redemption. And I was just like, wait a minute. We're going to be playing, where they filmed parts of Shawshank. That's amazing. Dude, we are like so excited for this one. That's so cool. Tattoos and rock and roll. I mean,
yeah. It's a definitely quite an experience. I've done overnights there with some friends of mine, like paranormal overnight. It's got some history there, and then done the regular Shawshank tours before, on weekends where there's not as much going on,
right.
But if you get it, if this is your only shot and your chance, I would talk to some of the Danny Wimmer people. I'm sure they'll be able to get you guys through there, man. It's definitely a good time, but. What was what's going on, other than you guys playing Incarceration? Is Trust Company kind of like, where are you guys at with like touring and stuff? I mean, we talked about the families, you got the experience, playing in front of your son and everything. Is there possibilities of more tours, or you're just going to kind of stick with these big major events for right now?
Well, I don't think that we're going to be able to tour, at least at this point, because everyone has, their jobs and their families and stuff. But I will say, like we played a club show in Destin, Florida at a place called Club LA that was awesome. And we want to play, like we're playing, the festivals are amazing. Like it's amazing, but we also want to play other places too, like clubs and stuff. So the goal right now is to play as much as we can, plus as much as we can make work in different places, and try to get out there. And I think we could do some short runs, but we couldn't do like full. Back in the day, we did like a 6 week run backed up by another 6 week run. It was just like, it was crazy. But I think we could do some short runs, and we're excited to play, and we're also excited to write. That's like what the focus is starting to turn to now. Like, let's start writing some stuff and put something out, because it's so crazy. Like, you get back in a band room, like we have a show coming up. So we're like, we're going to get in the band room. We're going to start rehearsing. And it's just nearly impossible to get into a band room and start rehearsing without somebody starting to write something. Like, it's like we get sidetracked. We're in there and somebody has a riff and we start playing it. And we're all like, okay. So being in the band room for so long, all these ideas have started to kind of come out. So that's something that we're looking forward to kind of focusing on. I don't know exactly what that's going to look like, but I know that moving forward, like after Incarceration Fest, we're going to really start focusing on writing a lot. And then we have some stuff for next year already lined up that we're going to do. And so, yeah, I can't promise any like full length tours, but maybe some short runs, and as much as we can do and make work. We're excited to get back out for sure.
Yeah, well, I think Cleveland used to show you guys quite a bit of love, so hopefully,
for sure,
make a trip here at some point.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, for sure, dude. Love it there. I'm looking forward to getting back.
What was speaking of Cleveland, going back in the day, what would do you have any fond Cleveland memories you could share?
I have memories of playing Peabody's, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I'm so bad. Like if there were other guys in the band, they could tell you every single place that we were. And, you know, like they have their details that those guys can remember. And I'm so bad with the details. Like I remember the places, but don't remember where we were. You know.
Well,
So
Peabody's was definitely one of the spots that.
Yeah. And I remember being there, but I have trouble taking my memories and attaching them to the exact location. I'm like, where were we when this happened? And where were we when that happened? And our tour manager from back in the day, he can remember every single thing, where we were, every single, you know, thing. And I'm just bad at it.
Yeah,
so,
well, that's why you got tour managers, right?
Yeah, that's right. It can get confusing. They wake up. We used to have a thing on our bus. This is terrible, but it's just the truth. We wake up on our bus and there would be like a day sheet would be stuck up there, and it would be like, you are in Cleveland. You know, it would be like, just tell you like, this is where you are. This is what you have to do today, and this is what time you need to be on stage. And if you're not back at the bus at this time, you're getting left. And that was it. So we wake up every day, look at there, and you are here. You know, because the bus drives overnight. It would drive overnight. You know, and, I remember this is crazy. This is a crazy feeling. We were on the East Coast, so you know, and then we played a show somewhere on the East Coast, and we had the next day was off, and we just had a long drive down the East Coast. So we went to bed at night at whatever, like 3 o'clock in the morning, and then the next day when I woke up on the bus, I knew we'd been driving all night long. So we had been driving all night, and the bus was parked. And there was no one on the bus. They'd all gotten up and gone like get like something to eat, but I was asleep, so they left me there. And I woke up and I was empty on the bus. And I remember I got off the bus and I looked around for something to eat. And I found a place to eat. And I walked inside. And I remember standing there about to eat. And I didn't even know what state I was in. And I asked the dude behind the counter. I was like, "This is going to be the weirdest question, but what state am I in right now?" Because when I went to sleep, you know, I was in Massachusetts, and I have no idea where I am now. So yeah, it can be a weird thing waking up and being like, where are we now?
Yeah. It wasn't so tough when you just were doing the long drives from Montgomery on the weekends.
We knew where we were. Yeah, you can cover some ground on the East Coast, and you wake up and you just have no idea where you are.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, what do you say? What would you say is some of the goals that you guys have then, you know, for Trust Company going forward after incarceration?
Yeah. Besides playing, like we want to write, and we want to put something else out, because it's just been such a great experience and good vibes, you know. And so we want to put music out. We want to continue to play. And when we first got on the phone and talked about like, hey, do you want to come back and play some shows and stuff? Like the most important thing, we were like, listen, let's just have fun. Like, you know, like kind of what we did back in the day. So I would say our only real goal right now is to just enjoy that we're getting a second chance to come out and have fun and connect with people and just play, and, you know, don't know how long it's going to last, and don't put any real expectations on it besides just to feel like real lucky that we're getting to do this again. So let's write some music and let's play some shows, and let's just like enjoy the ride. While we have it again, because it feels special for us, because we felt like we were gone for so long, and it's like, hey man, you know, we're 50 years old and we're getting a chance to like do this again. So that's the main thing. Let's just go out and have fun, man.
And that's the best advice, man. It's like my girlfriend has to keep grounding me all the time too. It's like, you know, I'm in recovery. I got now 15 years sober, and it was like I used to like be chained to like the past, you know, like the wreckage of my past, I guess, you know, and I would focus so much on that. And then I became like, you know, this goal-oriented person that's focused on the future, you know? And just like reel it back, man, and just enjoy the now, you know? And that's what the program I'm in calls for too. But I seem to forget that quite a bit. But I love these reminders to stay in it and just enjoy it, because nothing's promised tomorrow, you know?
Nope. No, I hear you 100%, and that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, it's not always easy to do, but it's a worthy goal to try to just kind of like enjoy the moment, you know, and feel blessed and not not I'm a worrier. Like I've always been a worrier. Like you, like I had a point in my life where I set goals, you know, and I can be a warrior, and I kind of came to the same conclusion that you did. This is like, I don't need to make up a story in my head that's not true about something that hasn't happened yet. Just enjoy where we're at, you know, and be in the moment. And it's easier said than done sometimes, but it's great advice for sure.
Amen. Kevin, man, what about, you know, I mean, we got fans that, I mean, you got a lot of fans. It's been, like you said, 20 years, you know, and we got a lot of fans from back in the day, but there's a whole new fan base out there. People just getting to hear about you guys for the first time. If you, like some of them could be listening to us talk right now. Like if there's any new fans out there that want to like kind of learn more or follow up or see what's going on in the Trust Company camp, where would you send them? Yeah, we have an Instagram account now, but we were real late to the game. So we finally have an Instagram account. It's pretty new, but you can follow us on Instagram, message us, and we all have personal Instagrams too. So I'd love to hear from anybody. But yeah, Trust Company Band on Instagram, you can find us, and we have Facebook. So we're on the socials. Nice. Awesome. Well, hey, before we get ready to wrap up, I want to ask you a couple of questions I normally ask my guests that I have on here. You're talking a lot about some of, you know, the music that influenced you when you got into playing, a lot of the people that influenced you, but who would you say today are your top 3 musical artists? Oh, that's hard. It's interesting. One of them is a band that, when it comes to like rock, there's this band called Vexus, and they're not signed. They're from New Jersey. We played with them back in the day, like in 2008. When we were coming through New Jersey, we played a show with them, and we met them and became good friends. And I just think that they're great. Back then, they weren't called Vexus, but yeah, Vexus is probably who I'm listening to the most as far as rock. You know what's interesting? This is not rock, but like as a songwriter and as a lyricist, I lately have been listening. Do you know who Jason Isbell is? He's like a singer-songwriter, but to me, he's a great lyricist, and so I've been listening to him a lot. And let's see, the third one. You know, I just played. If I could take it back, you know, what I just played recently was The Police from back in the 80s. Oh, nice. Yeah, so that's what I've been listening to. Yeah, that's what I've been listening to recently, like within the last like 48 hours. So that's it. And then what do you know, with having kids today, being a father, what class do you feel should be mandatory before graduating high school today? Like an actual class in school before graduating? You know, our kiddo is homeschooled. I can tell you with him, like the one thing that we talk about with him more than anything, he makes good grades and he's an excellent kid, but more than anything, what we talk about with him is, you could make bad grades and all the other stuff, but the most important thing is how he treats people. Because in life, there's this, I mean, we've all heard this saying before, but like people aren't going to remember what you said to them. Have you ever heard this quote? They're not going to remember what you said to them. They're going to remember how you made them feel. Yeah. And as someone who has gone through my share of like mental issues, you know, like I'm a feeling person. And so like, I would say the most important thing is, you know, is we talk to him about how he treats people, because it's so important. And all the grades and stuff, I wanted to make good grades, but I could care less about that. I care more about who he is and how he's treating people. Yeah, that's amazing. I've had quite a few, you know, I think Elias from Nonpoint was one. Trying to remember who the other person was I've had on here that they do the same thing, man. They're homeschooling their kids. It's just, things are kind of, you know, things are kind of goofy out there in the world today. But if you really want to teach like the important things, like you said, just what kind of person you're raising, character.
Yeah.
That's got to be something. Well, I mean, obviously, it starts with us at home. You know, in our example and stuff.
Yeah,
but,
more is caught than taught, for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I need these reminders too. It's like both of my girls are grown women now; they're in college, but I still get caught up in like I said, in the goals for myself, and then you want better for your kids, and sometimes it's like, I got to step back and be more grateful that I got good kids. They're good human beings, And it don't matter, how much, everybody's going through stuff right now, get caught up, it's not about the imaginary brass rings that society puts in front of us to grab, like you said, I'd rather people feel, when I'm doing right, when I'm doing it right, I know, because my girls feel comfortable coming to talk to me about life issues. When I'm doing it wrong, they'll let me know.
Yeah.
So I love these conversations because I need the self-reflection and reminders too, man.
Yeah, same, man. Same.
And then speaking of, people in our lives that kind of inspire us and make us better people, who are 3 people that you can credit for inspiring you and making you the person you are today?
I'd say the first one would probably be my wife. She is my wife has struggled. She had a major panic attack a few years ago, and it has turned into like full-blown panic disorder. And so I've watched her battle that. And it's something that I didn't even know existed but like the strength and just her fighting to kind of get her life back has been truly inspiring. And she's a great mother, and just she's the person that, like, when I'm struggling, will come up to me and say, hey, you know what I mean? Like you got this. And so without her, I don't know, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'll say this too, like my dad was a political cartoonist growing up. And so it was interesting to have a dad who drew cartoons for a living. And he kind of like, when you're a kid wants to play in a band, you want to get signed, like the odds are really against you. And my dad kind of had the same thing. There's only a certain amount of newspapers. He was a political cartoonist. There's only a certain amount of newspapers. There was not very many jobs available in the whole country, but he really, really, really chased his dream to be a cartoonist. And it happened for him, and so I've always been really inspired by his story and how he kind of taught me to like go after your dreams, and you can do it, and you can kind of, if you're an artist or you live in this artistic realm, it's like it's not impossible for you to get there. You just got to work hard and keep going after it. And probably the other one would probably be my brother. My brother was I had written about this at one point, but my brother in school was classified as an LD student and in math, and was told he'd probably never be able to go to college because he wouldn't be able to do any of that. And he's got a PhD now, and he's killing it. And so watching these people overcome things in my life, they kind of become your heroes, the people closest to you. So I would say those 3 people.
Wow, that's awesome. Man, Kevin, I think I needed this conversation with you today, a lot more than just, another interview on the podcast. So I appreciate, us getting to talk, man.
I appreciate it too, man.
One last question I wanted to ask is, it takes everybody back to childhood, but favorite toy as a child?
Oh my gosh. I'm not going to say a bike, although that might be really what it was because I wrote it so much. Favorite toy as a child. We just saw a commercial of this too. Like it was probably Castle Grayskull, He-Man's Castle Grayskull.
Oh,
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
I mean, I can still remember getting Castle Grayskull and just being like,
I made it.
Yeah, like it was just it just felt so big, I was like, oh my gosh, I have Castle Grayskull. So I have a strong, like a really like core memory of getting that toy as a kid.
Nice. And then any message you have for our military members that are currently serving overseas?
Yeah, I just thank you. It's finding the words to say is nearly impossible. And I can't even really imagine. So just very grateful for everyone that serves, for sure. Yeah. Awesome. Heartfelt thank you.
Kevin, man, like I said, I really appreciate this conversation with you today. I look forward to meeting you in person next
dude.
In a week or so at
next Saturday.
Yeah. Dude, I'm looking forward to hearing Trust Company live once again.
Thank you, man. We're pumped. We're pumped about it.
Yeah. And then before I let you go, if I could ask one last favor, you mind cutting a promo ID for the show? Just introduce yourself and you're listening to today's Boondoggle.
Yeah. Hey, this is Kevin Palmer from the band Trust Company, and you're listening to today's Boondoggle.
Awesome. Kevin, man, thank you again so much for your time. And it's been a great conversation. It gave me a lot to reflect upon today, and look forward, like I said, to seeing you at Incarceration.
Same, dude. Thank you so much for taking the time. I appreciate it.
All right. Take care.
Okay. Bye.
You see all the commercials for online gambling, but you're afraid to try them because you just don't want to lose, right? Well, play with the house's money. Right now, sign up with FanDuel at fanduel.cnspn.com and get $15 of free bets just for using our link. Sign up today at fanduel.cmspn.com and get $15 worth of bets on FanDuel. Be responsible and play today.